Let's just set the table here. What's this bill, Sabrina, trying to do?
So the purpose of this bill is to protect children from hateful content that's online. And what that entails is policing 7 different forms of content or hate speech, and also establishing a digital safety commission that's going to be tasked with regulating large platforms. So this matters because online violence is violence. For young people, this can entail self-harm or even suicide. And this is about responding to platforms that amplify and circulate content in a way that normalizes hate, puts our youth at risk, and threatens our democracy. So what we have here is something that's informed by other countries that are further along in how they've developed protections for their citizens, and also something that's been shaped by the insights of civil society researchers who have been working to hold these platforms to account.
In your view, is it genuinely only aimed at young people?
I think there is a spillover effect to the general population at large. If we're looking at protections for kids, it's also going to affect the grown-ups in their lives as well. We know, especially during the course of the pandemic, kids are increasingly online, and the grown-ups in their world have been kind of outmaneuvered in terms of how they're handling technology. There's a broader concern around digital media literacy that is of national relevance. So this is something that does affect all of us.
Dax, how about in your view? Is this genuinely aimed exclusively at preventing harm to children?
Not exclusively, no. I think there are actually 2 elements of the bill here. So one is what I would describe as really non-controversial, which is improving the transparency and accountability of digital platforms. And that essentially brings Canada in line with comparator countries who have created similar online harms legislation to create some sort of regulatory framework. And digital media companies, or digital platforms, actually want to work with governments to figure out where those reasonable limits for expression would be online. There's almost universal consensus that the status quo is untenable for Canadian digital regulations in this specific sphere. So that's non-controversial. The potentially controversial bits of the bill are the amendments to hate speech prohibitions. So the amendments to the criminal code specifically, and also the amendments to the Canadian Human Rights Act.
Can I ask you about that? Is there truly a consensus that the status quo is untenable and something has to be done?
I don't think there is a consensus. I think that there is a divide. There's incredible polarization around what constitutes hate speech, around the need to regulate it, the sense that it's free expression. I draw a fine line between hate speech and free speech, and I think about it as dangerous speech, and this is what it's intended to address, is speech that, and this is a nice thing, where there's a definition now of hate. So it's speech that vilifies or represents detestation associated with the community. So I think very important there from some perspectives, but not all.
Can I just jump in on that?
Yeah.
You really think it's a fine line?
I think, it's actually an increasingly blurred line. I think what has refined it and this is where the definition comes from that they've included. What has refined it is successive court decisions which have tried to define hate. And we've had a Canadian Human Rights Tribunal case that has also distilled those into 11 hallmarks of hate, which are informing that definition. So this is an attempt, I think, to make that a finer line, if you will, to draw that distinction more clearly.